Hi friends, today we will discuss 40 very important MCQs of English literature. So let's start this video. First MCQ is, who was the first professional English woman playwright? Uh, Three options we have: Fanny Burney, Ephra Ben, Julia Shawn. So over here, Ephra Ben is the correct option. She belonged to the Restoration era and she was the first professional English woman playwright. Second MCQ is, the first poet laureate of England is Ben Stewart, Ben Jonson, John Campbell. So over here B is the correct option. Ben Jonson is the first poet laureate of England. And Ben Jonson, as you all know, he was also a friend of William Shakespeare. Pure tragedies written by Shakespeare are 3, 5 or 4. So pure tragedies are 4. So the 4 tragedies are Othello, King Lear, Macbeth and Hamlet. Hamlet was published in, so we have 3 options: 1602, 1603, 1601. So Hamlet was published in 1602. So over here A is the correct option. Who said the true opposite of poetry is not prose but science? 3 options we have: Coleridge, Shelley, Tennyson. So actually this was said by Coleridge. So over here A is the correct option. French remained the official language of England till, as we know that in 1066, after the Battle of Hastings, the Normans conquered England. So French language became the official language and it remained the official language till 1362. So A option is the correct one. How many poems were in lyrical ballads? So we all know that lyrical ballads was published in 1798 and it was composed by William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. So in lyrical ballads we have 23 poems. Among 23 poems, 19 were written by William Wordsworth and 4 poems belong to Samuel Taylor Coleridge. So over here B is the correct option. Who intellectualized nature? So 3 options we have: Keats, Shelley, Byron. So Shelley was the one who actually intellectualized nature. So over here B is the correct option. Who was the most notorious among romantic poets? Coleridge, Shelley, Byron. So Byron is the correct option. He was very notorious. He had many scandals with women, and because of these scandals he had to leave England as well, and then he settled in Italy. Chaucer used which dialect? So there were many dialects spoken in Chaucer's time. So Chaucer used East Midland dialect in his poetry. So B option is the correct one. Who was the patron of Shakespeare? Earl of Southampton, Earl of Surrey, Earl of London. So Earl of Southampton was the patron of William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare wrote many sonnets for his patron. In those times when William Shakespeare was alive, patrons used to support financially. They used to support the poets financially, and as a result the poets phrase them in their poetry. So this was also done by William Shakespeare, and his patron was Earl of Southampton, who was the wife of William Shakespeare. So A option is the correct one. Anne Hathaway is the was a wife of William Shakespeare. She was 8 years older than William Shakespeare. Who wrote Tintern Abbey? Well, Tintern Abbey is a famous poem in English literature and this was written by William Wordsworth. Tintern Abbey was included in lyrical ballads as well. How many children Chaucer had? So Chaucer had 2 children. Over here A is the correct option. One was his son and one was his daughter. John Donne secretly married home in 1601. Anne Moore, Anne Matthews, Anne Richard. Anne Moore, A option is the correct one. Anne Moore and John Donne, they secretly married in 1601 and they had 12 children. Who always saw the skull beneath the skin? Well, this was the line uh, mentioned by T.S. Eliot, and he has said specially about the plays of John Webster. John Webster's plays were full of blood, revenge, and murder and killing. So T.S. Eliot has specially said this line about John Webster. Who wrote Venice Preserved? So over here B is the correct option. Thomas Otway was the one who wrote this famous play Venice Preserved, and it was during the time of Restoration era. Act of Union 1707 joined the Parliament of England and Scotland. So over here A option is the correct one. This Act of Union was passed in 1707, and after this act the Parliament of England and Scotland were joined. In 1800 the Act of Union merged Britain and Ireland. So over here Ireland is the correct option. So after this England became United Kingdom, or we can say it the Great Britain after this act. When Chaucer was imprisoned in France, what was the year in which Chaucer was imprisoned in France? So it was 1360. So 100 years war was going on between England and France. Chaucer was sent to France as a spy. So he was captured in France. So he was released when King Edward III directly interfered, and King Edward III was the one who was behind the release of Geoffrey Chaucer in 1360. Chaucer became the member of parliament in very important MCQ. We have three options: 1389, 1386, 1380. So Chaucer became the member of parliament in 1386. So B option is the correct one. Who hailed Shakespeare not of an age but for all time? Who has said these memorable line about Shakespeare? So he was Ben Jonson. Ben Jonson was the one who hailed Shakespeare not of an age but for all time. Ben Jonson knew that there was something unique in the plays of William Shakespeare, and that uniqueness will make him a legendary figure in English literature and for all ages. Ben Jonson popularized comedy of humor, manners, or character. So Ben Jonson actually popularized comedy of humor. So comedy of humor became very popular through his plays. Oscar Wilde was born in 1853, 1852, 1854. So C option is the correct one. Oscar Wilde was born in 1854. Who considered Hamlet as artistic failure? Well, this was said by and observed by T.S. Eliot. So A option is the correct one. Imaginary Conversation was written by Walter Savage Landor, Lee Hunt, De Quincey. So A option is the correct one, very important, and this is the most famous work written by Walter Savage Landor. Which poem is written in 39 lines? Sonnet, sestina, haiku. So B option is the correct one. Sestina is the poem which is written in 39 lines. The study of elements of poetry is called prosody, diction, rhetoric. So A option is the correct one over here. Who wrote Life of Johnson? So very important work, very famous autobiography. This is Life of Johnson, and it was written by James Boswell. So A option is the correct one. Which theatre rejects emotional and psychological engagement? Three options we have: epic theater, absurd theater, culinary theater. So A option over here is the correct one. Epic theater is the one which reject emotional and psychological engagement. Who wrote the famous work Leaves of Grass? As Walt Whitman, Robert Frost, Henry James. So it was written by Walt Whitman. Walt Whitman is a famous poet of American literature, and Walt Whitman is also famous for writing the poem "Oh Captain, My Captain," and it was about Abraham Lincoln. Who wrote Grapes of Wrath? Grapes of Wrath, very famous novel, and it is written by John Steinbeck. So A option over here is the correct one. Which genre declined after the Licensing Act of 1737? Novel, drama, or poetry? So, drama declined after this Licensing Act of 1737. According to this act, every play will be censored and then it will be performed on the stage. So, because of this Licensing Act, many famous playwrights turn to novels. I can give you one example of Henry Fielding. He started his career writing plays for the theater, but after this act, he thought that probably there is not much freedom left for a writer like him, so he turned to novel writing after this act. Who invented the genre periodical essays? Joseph Edison, Richard Steele. C option, both A and B. So C option is the correct. Joseph Edison and Richard Steele, both of them invented the genre periodical essays. Shamila was written by Fielding as a parody of Richardson, Pamela, or yes, or C option, none. So Pamela was actually written as a parody of Shamila was written by Fielding as a parody of Pamela. So over here B option is the correct one. Well, there is a lot of detail behind why Shamila was written. I will explain this in another video sometime. The Adventures of Robinson Crusoe is based on Alexander Selkirk, Alexander the Great, or Poon Lim. So A option is the correct one. Alexander Selkirk is the correct option. The Journals to Stella by Swift contains letters 65, 64, 63. So A option is the correct one. The Journals to Stella has 65 letters. Which work of Swift is a satire on church? A book, Battle of Books, A Tale of Tub, Gulliver's Travel. So A Tale of Tub is actually a satire on church, and it was written by Jonathan Swift, who wrote Beggar's Opera, John Gay, John Gray, William Jones. So A option, John Gay, is the correct option over here. Who wrote the poem Vanity of Human Wishes? Very famous poem in English literature, and it was written in 1749, and the poet was Samuel Johnson. Samuel Johnson actually wrote this famous poem Vanity of Human Wishes. So with this I have come to the end. We have completed 40 very important MCQs of English literature. I hope that this video will help you in your educational career. Thank you so much for watching this video.